Dear Khenpo Sodaji Rinpoche, our distinguished guests and dear friends, we are delighted to have all of you here to participate and share in the conference. Thank you for coming.
尊敬的各位来宾，尊敬的索达吉堪布仁波切，亲爱的朋友们，大家晚上好！感谢大家的到来。
There are no words which can convey our awe and respect for Khenpo Sodaji Rinpoche. We would like, however, take this opportunity to tell Khenpo that it is our honor and privilege to welcome you here. Your long-distance travel across the world, from China to America, then to Europe, serves to remind us all just how precious and important your speech is.
今天能邀请到索达吉堪布仁波切来到这里开示，是我们大家的荣幸。感谢堪布不辞辛劳，长途跋涉，从中国到美国，再来到欧洲，这使我们意识到此次机会非常难得，应该倍感珍惜。
Now I'm honored to invite Khenpo Sodaji to give us a speech. And before I hand over to Khenpo, I would like to remind everyone to prepare ourselves to be inspired and excited. Please join me in giving our guests the warmest and best welcomes.
现在，让我们邀请索达吉堪布仁波切上台，为我们开示媒体与现代科技的正念。掌声有请。
7点是吧？
7 o'clock.
这手表是我挪威买的，这次。
I bought this watch in Norway. This time.
从和平建中心买的。
At the Nobel Peace Center.
所以暂时戴一段时间，不知道能戴多长时间。
So I'll wear it for a while. Not sure how long it will last.
所以第一天用的，但是好像不太准。
It's the first time I'm using it, but it seems like it's not really quite on time.
刚才在录体课对的时候的是差5分钟的差别。
When I was checking my time on this on this watch with someone else's at the staircase, apparently there's a 5 minutes difference.
今天跟各位大家一起探讨一下现代科技媒体与这个正念方面的一些话题。
Today our topic is on media, technology, and mindfulness.
这个话题呢也是应该大家比较熟悉的，也是当今非常关系的。它可以说在我们的日常生活当中是已经成了息息相关、不可缺少的事情。
This is something that's really close to each and every one of our lives. This is something that everyone cares about.
我们大家都知道，这个现在是一个高科技的时代，也是媒体、社交传播非常迅速的这么一个特殊的时代。
This is an era of high tech, speedy technological development, as well as the fast spread of media, as well as social media.
因此有些人呢，对这个时代的评价是，这个时代是最好的时代，这个时代是最坏的时代。
So it is said that this is the best of ages, and this is the worst of all ages.
从我们个人的一些生活体验也好，或者说是修行的经验也好，或者说是跟整个对世界的一些了解，方方面面的感受，整合起来的时候呢，也确实感觉到，有时候觉得当今这个时代是非常好，因为一切都特别方便。
So based on my personal experience and my personal life experience, as well as practice experience, and my experience around the world, and whenever I reach out globally, I usually have such a feeling that this is really the best of all times because everything's really convenient.
因为我们在座的人大家都知道，科技的这种发展，就让我们的这个全球的很多信息呢，在短短的时间当中，可以说眼下一览无余，就全部都可以掌握在自己的眼前。
Our audience over here probably also have the same experience that nowadays, because of the technological development, in a really short time, we can get to know all the informations all around the world.
但是过于的依赖，这种科技的话呢，我们人有时候是反而也是变成比较愚蠢了。
But if we over rely upon technology, then human beings may become foolish, more and less have less intelligence.
我看到很多开车的有那个就定位的时候呢，还可以 GPS 的定位的可以的，但是如果没有定位的话，那就是不会开车。
I saw some people could only drive with the directions that's provided by GPS, and without GPS they can't go anywhere, they can't find their ways.
我看到很多演讲的人，如果有 PPT 的这种投影仪的话，那就是讲得特别好，但是没有的话呢，就断线了。
And I saw some of the keynote speakers, whenever they make speech, they completely rely upon PPT, the PowerPoints, and without any PowerPoints, they can't make their speech.
包括现在有些老师也讲课的时候呢，让学生下载一些知识，然后老师过来再给他们讲。
Same as teachers. Usually teachers make requirements that the students should download or find information themselves so that the teachers could give instructions afterwards.
生活确实是比较方便。我们比如说寻找一个宾馆，看这个宾馆的评价是如何。如果我们想点菜的话呢，就是依靠外卖。还有我们以前订飞机票的时候呢，就是亲自到就有一些地方固定的地方去，但现在就是通过网络，什么都非常非常方便。
Life definitely is more convenient nowadays. For example, we can find good hotels based on its rating, as well as we can order food online. We can buy airplane tickets online nowadays. Back in the days, people have to go to specific places to purchase airplane tickets.
但我们过于的依赖这些技术所带来的信息的时候呢，其实我们许许多多的人的心灵就带来许多不健康的因素。
But over relying upon technology definitely brings different mental afflictions and even ailments.
以前我们读书的时候，包括现在的有些疾病，比如说什么艾滋病还有这个抑郁症以及关于精神和身体方面的很多疾病的话呢，基本上连名称都没有听过，但现在呢，已经成为这个世界的杀手之一。
When I was still in school, back in those days, I've never heard the names such as AIDS, such as depression. A lot of those mental as well as physical ailment those names were never really heard of. However, nowadays they became the number one killers of human beings.
据很多专业人员分析呢，现在我们人的心灵的一些疾病的话呢，跟现代的社交媒体有密切的关系。
Lots of professionals stated that nowadays lots of our mental illness happened due to our social media.
譬如我们现在很多心理焦虑，然后心里有一些自闭或者说是抑郁的，像这样的这种现象是越来越多，尤其是发达国家越来越多。原因是什么呢？因为我们很多的年轻人，他的大量的时间呢用在这个网络的这个社交的这个信息上。
Nowadays, the mental illness cases such as anxiety as well as depression, the number of or population who has such ailments is growing swiftly, especially in developed countries. Why is that, you may ask? It is mainly because young people nowadays spend a lot of time on social media.
而且这些心理的疾病呢，就现在是比较贫穷的国家、比较落后的国家，这样的人群当中呢，就怎么说啊？就是那个发生率不是很高的。
And these kind of cases do not happen as often as developed countries, such as those developing countries and underdevelopment countries. They don't have such a large number of those cases.
现在每天这个网络使用的人呢，就是应该是全球70多亿人口的占50%了。
Nowadays, the population or the percentage of people who use internet is about 50% of our 7 billion people globally.
2016年和2015年的话，那就是基本上是在40%当中。
Back in 2015 and 2016, the percentage was around 40%.
还有一部分人呢，就活跃的，就是非常积极的，整天都是掺在这个网络信息当中的，也是就非常多。
And there are so many people are quite active on the cyberspace.
整天都进入这样的一个网页的话呢，有什么样的各种疾病的一些因缘呢？实际上这是有相关的很多就专业人士呢就分析得非常清楚。
You could accumulate lots of causing conditions to have mental illness. Lots of professionals have done research and stated so.
很多人通过上网就是发现自己所喜欢的一些，比如说我喜欢这个什么轿车，我喜欢这个豪宅，我喜欢什么某个名牌的衣服等等。那么这样的话呢，我们一进去的时候呢，其实在这个网页的背后呢，再叫做是一种这个跟踪性的信息。跟踪性的信息有个非常大的这种数据库，那这里面呢，根据我的说法呢，就是有无数的这种信息呢，不断的给我引发。后来呢，我就可以在每天都是，只要我一打开的时候呢，跟我相关的就是我有爱好的这些信息呢，就呈现在我面前。
Nowadays on internet, all the information would bombard you if you like particular things, such as if you like luxurious cars or if you like certain brands. All those information will automatically show up on your website. Why is that? It is because nowadays there's a tool called targeting information or targeting advertisement. Behind all those research, behind all those searches that you've done on internet, there's a tremendous amount of data that's supporting for your searches, so that all the other companies could send relevant information to you that you searched before. Therefore, whenever you open up any website, all those information you liked or you prefer will automatically appear in front of your face.
因此，现在的很多年轻人，从小都，可以说是我们年龄比较高的呢，就是虽然是他文字上是不是文盲，但是他们都可以称为是叫网络的文盲，就是所以不太懂，很多操作都不太会。但很多年轻人呢，他是从小跟这个科技一起长大的，因此他的生活基本上大多数沉溺在这个当中。
For the older generation, maybe they can read, maybe they are quite good at reading, but in terms of cyberspace using, they're still illiterate. However, the youngsters nowadays, because they grew up with that culture, they're the first netizens, and they're quite cyber literate.
那这些人经常去寻找他的所需要的，比如说我喜欢买一个非常好的豪华的车，那么我在关于这方面述说的过程当中呢，网上有很多非常好的、非常高档的这样的一些车啊，就是相关这方面的。但是我自己呢，就经常就是没办法就是获得 你的这种诉求呢不能获得，以这样的原因呢，心里面就是有很多的压力和心里面有很多的这种这种痛苦，慢慢就是久而久之就变成了一种负面的这个情绪。
People who browse online and who are used to browse online, if they want to purchase a car or if they want to purchase anything, all those relevant information will flood into that research result. And the person, for example, who wants to purchase a luxurious car, all the different informations about Lux cars would flood in. And because there are always better cars, there are always better products, one could get really frustrated about not able to attain them all. And with time, because of that sense of pressure that one should have to attain them or obtain them, and there's a sense of unhappiness because of that unsatisfied desire, one could get lots of accumulated negative emotions.
而且这些人呢，跟我们现实生活当中的，包括他的亲朋好友啊，他的一些与他相同的这些人群的，就真正的实体上的人群的交往呢，越来越少，因为他的生活呢，基本上是在一个虚拟的世界当中，就是沟通和虚拟的世界当中，就是获得了他的满足。
People who indulge in social media, who indulge in cyberspace, they feel more disconnected with the real family, with the real community, because they spend a lot of time on social media, on the virtual space.
所以现在很多人可能跟父母就10分钟的电话都可能不愿意，说是我很忙，但他自己在网上聊天和网上如果这样一直很无聊的这种看的话，那就是几个小时的话，他不觉得自己忙，甚至可能就熬夜，就是也一直就是因为他自己的这种所需或者是他自己的嗜好呢，就一直在沉迷。
Now, people don't even spend much time calling their parents or talk to their parents. 10 minutes seems to be long enough, or maybe too long sometimes. But whenever they spend time chatting online or just browsing online out of boredom, they could spend hours doing so without feeling that they're busy. So some young people even stay up all night to spend their time on useless information as such.
所以现在很多人跟真正的人的交往越来越少，但是跟信息的交往越来越多。可是这些信息呢，大多数都是我们也并不是能用得上。
Nowadays, people lack interaction with real people, but they have over-interacted with lots of information online, maybe too much information.
根据专业人士的有些总结的话呢，比如说我的手机里面有100个人的这种联络的联系地方，联系人，1000个人，但是我只能平常呢，就是能保存150个左右。然后在我的真正的社交当中，我经常联系的呢，就是10个人左右，就这是跟我们的时间和精力和我的能力有限，就像是我们的一个电话里面它的内存呢，就是有60兆或者说是120兆一样的。我们人的这个信息沟通呢，只有一个确定的，它有一种能力。
Some of the professional studies shows that even if you have 1,000 contacts in your phone, the people that you keep in touch with is roughly about 150. And out of those, the ones that you really keep close contact with are about only 10 of them. Because we have only limited time, we have limited energy, and we have limited capacity to keep in touch with such a large number of people. So nowadays, it is just like how we have different storage space in our cell phone. Some may have 60 gig and some may have 120 gigs. It is exactly the same because we only have set number of time to communicate.
因此我们现在这个特殊的时代当中，给我们的信息太多了，我们已经变成了特别眼花缭乱的，就是这样的一个群体。然后我心里的很多的不满足，就是慢慢积累起来，最后的话呢，就是我就 有了这个心理的各种不健康的疾病。
Now we're in this special time where there's a overflood of information that really dazzles people and really befuddles people. So in this kind of era, because of that bombardment of over-information, of that flood of information, people tend to get more negative emotions and eventually will become an ailment.
现在就是各个发达国家的这些高端的企业和大学都在学禅修呢，实际上是他们已经到了非常就可以说是这个科技到了最顶点的时候呢，最后发现客观的这种物质呢，实际上还不能解决我们真正的人的主观的一些意识上的问题。
Now, in developed countries, large corporations, even schools, people adapt meditation as a method to relieve negative emotions. So what that shows is that nowadays, at the peak of development of technology, the objective wealth of materialism do not equal to subjective happiness.
因此，我今天的建议呢，我们就是很多人，就是不要太过于的沉迷于现在的这个信息当中。如果实在不能断开一切的信息的话，一天就是能不能至少就是关机1个小时，就然后即使你不能禅修，但是呢，你过一个比较正常的原始的这种生活的话，也许这个时候你关自己的心，关自己的行为的话，会有一些新的发现。
So people nowadays really indulge in cell phones. So I would encourage everyone here, do not be so indulged in internet and cell phones and technology. Could you please maybe just switch off your phone for 1 hour? Be off that internet for 1 hour. Even if you don't use this hour to meditate, could you just live as how we used to live, how we meant to live, just for 1 hour time? So take that time to observe your actions, to take the time to live.
当然，我说的关机呢，并不是晚上睡觉的时候。
And that switch off your phone should not happen, or time wouldn't count if you're just switching off your phone while you're sleeping. That doesn't count.
也许你关机1个小时的话，那你也许，你对自己的手机可能，虽然不能打开，但是你也许用眼睛看好几次。
At the time that you switch off your phone for an hour, although you can't turn it on, but you probably notice or catch yourself glaring over that phone for a few times.
其实我们真正用通过禅修来内观自省的时候呢，发现我们现在在就日常生活当中所发现的很多问题呢，跟我们的主观意识是并不是很相合的，很多都是欺骗我们、诱惑我们的这种知识。
So when we meditate, that's a time you can really see how lots of informations are not useful. And not only that they're not useful, they bring lots of distractions, sometimes even distorted information or distort our mind towards how we view our life.
因此，在这个时代当中呢，有时候就现在人们大家提倡的就是这些禅修的知识呢，也是至关重要。
So nowadays, it is quite important to adapt the meditation practice that is promoted widely all over the world.
不过禅修呢，就是有几个比较简单的，就可以说是其实禅修它可以分2个方面，滚吧这样刚才呢，下当就别滚吧。就是说，所谓的这个修行是什么呢？就是通过动中禅，就是这观察而得来的一种禅修。还有呢，就是平时心，就是安住在自己心性当中的一种禅，就是有2种方法。
However, over here, the practice I'm going to introduce to you has 2 aspects in them. So the practice, as stated, is that there are 2 ways to practice meditation. One is through action or through observation, and the other one is through abiding in the nature of mind.
这些修行法呢，就是像我们这个佛教的话呢，确实是非常多的，包括我个人翻译的有些修行方面的这个法呢，就非常非常多的，就我可以几个书的，我记得起来的有几本书的名字来跟你们讲一下。
There are many methods in terms of how to practice, how to train your mind. I even translated a lot of them into Chinese. So now I'm going to list some titles for you, for your reference.
在我们藏传佛教当中，很多的特别殊胜的，应该说是现在的这个有些，包括有些企业也好，单位就是学校也好，可能在这样的一种比较深度的地方呢，就是有一部分是应该是有的，但是有些地方呢，可能还没有这么修的，就是这样的这种禅修的法门是非常多的。这些文字呢，应该是就很多几百年，就上千年以来的是一直流传，就是人们也一直在运用着。
In Tibetan Buddhism, we have so many supreme teachings, unsurpassable teachings in terms of the practice of meditation. Nowadays, the large corporations as well as schools adapted some of those, and some or a lot of them are still not adapted. But all these practices had been practiced by great practitioners for over 1,000 years.
我们藏传佛教当中，这种禅修呢，就是称之为叫做罗用，就修心，就是修自己的心。其实禅修都是修自己的心。
In Tibetan, we call it lojang. Lojang is to train your mind, train your own mind.
现在很多人就是修正念，就是其实正念的话呢，也是在佛教当中的，比如说4念处的修法就是观这个自己的身体就我的身体是就把觉知就现在也可以，就佛教就原始佛教当中也有，就经常用自己的这种念头来现在的心在什么这个一会儿把自己的手脚就是整个身体观着的话叫身念处。
In terms of right mindfulness, nowadays that we talked so much about, a lot of them is about the practice of satipatthana, or the 4 ways to observe your mind, or to observe. The first one is to observe your body, or bring awareness to your body, to bring your thoughts onto your body, to notice your hands and your feet. This is the first practice on body.
然后观察我们的这个我的痛苦的感受，快乐的感受，就经常关注自己的感受，就是这叫做受念处。
The second one is about feelings or sensations, is to bring awareness and to observe the feelings of happiness or the feelings of unease. So that's the second one.
观察我们的这个心呢，就是专注在外面的，比如说柱子上，或者说是瓶子上、花朵上，这样的这种觉知呢，就叫做是法念处。
The third one is on Dharma. It is when we look at what we are observing or where our thoughts are, what we are looking at. For example, are we looking at the pillar? Are we looking at the flower vase or the flowers? So that's the third one, the Dharma.
或者观察自己的起心动念，就是观自己的心，就产生恶念，产生善的念头，产生分别念，产生无分别念，就在这方面关注的这种方法呢，就叫做信念处。
And the fourth one is mind. Is when you observe whether if you have a thought that is good, that is bad, that is kind or unkind, or is that a conceptual thought, is that a non-conceptual thought? So that is the fourth one, mind.
其实这4种念处呢，如果我们观察的比较细，观得比较好的话呢，就完全是打破我们的这个我者，让可以这个正我。昨天我们有些人说我怎么样这个正我，就是按照吉天菩萨的如菩萨行论的智慧品的这种分析方法的话呢，通过这4种念处，就是可以就是打破我者，就是去觉悟开悟。
So in these 4 ways of observation, if you can practice in such a way, in depth, in detail, then it could really shatter your ego and bring you to enlightenment. It is stated in the 9th chapter of Shantideva, of Bodhisattva Charyavatara, that's written by Shantideva.
你们应该稍微开心一点吧，不然这里是听说很幸福的，好像不是那么开心的样子。
Why are you not happy? I heard that you should be really happy over here. Can you cheer up?
我刚才就是想跟藏传佛教当中的关于修行法，比如说有一个叫修行契要，你们西方很多修行人也在修行过的，就是这个法非常殊胜，就是以前有通门宗部，就是他有非常好的注释。
The first one I would like to introduce to you is the book called Lojong, or 7 Points of Mind Training, which is a really popular book in the West. Tokme Zampo, he also has a really great commentary on this book.
还有格西朗日唐巴的修行八颂，就是修行八颂呢，以前也有很多大德也是传讲过，虽然只有8个颂词。8个宗旨，但是这个里面的内容是非常值得我们经常这个修行。如果你经常修行的话呢，无论是你的生理上、心理上，都会有提升，就是真正的这种智慧和悲心。
The second one I would like to tell you about is the 8 verses of mind training that is composed by Langri Tongpa. In this book, although there are only 8 verses, it is quite powerful if you can adapt it as a practice that you could really practice often. And if you do practice often, then you could notice there's a difference in your practice in terms of your mind of compassion, in terms of how your mental well-being it develops.
还有伽玛拉西拉他所造的修行次第，上修行次第和中修行次第，还有下修行次第，也有很多大德讲过，也有英文上也有，所以这也是非常好的。你们都讲了一些止观啊，就是机制啊、升观啊，如何禅修的这些方法呢，就讲得特别清楚。
And the third one is composed by Kamala Shila. It's the book called The 3 Stages of Meditation, in which it is stated the different stages of meditation, the lower, the medium, and the higher stages. It is also taught widely all around the world, same as the 8 verses of mind training that we talked earlier. So both of these books are taught extensively in the West by different masters. In this particular book, or in this particular trilogy of meditation, the 3 stages of meditation, he talked in detail of how to practice shamatha meditation, how to practice vipassana meditation, as well as how to abide and so on. So this is a great book to pick up.
还有波罗巴他的修行法，就是这个内容比较少，但是主要讲通过大悲心和爱，就修行，就是这个非常有价值力的一个很短的修行法门。
And the next one is composed by Purwapa. In his book, he talks about the great mind of compassion as well as loving kindness. So there are a lot of practices that's included in this book as well.
还有前辈大德非常重视的一个叫开启修行门扉，就是对这里面也讲了就许多这个禅修法门。
And the other one is opening door of meditation, of practice. This is also quite a renowned book.
还有叫扎嘎善法，扎嘎仁波切他写的，在专门闭关的时候就如何修行，就看破这个事件，就应该也是通过修行之后，原来我们讲过好像1-2次，就讲完了以后，很多人的收获都完全不同。
And the next one is called the Mountain Retreat Instruction of Zaka. So in this instruction, he talked about the different ways of how to give rise to the mind of renunciation. Many people, after learning this text, they had lots of different feelings about practice. They have deepened their relationship to the practice, so to speak.
其他的我就在这里汉传佛教和南传佛教的有些法门呢，就是不介绍，就其实这里面也有很多很多的非常殊胜的这种禅修的法门。
In Han Buddhism as well as Theravada Buddhism, there are also a lot of instructions, but over here I'm not going to talk too much about those.
我看你们这个挪威呢，就是实际上是非常开放的，昨天开放的地方。昨天我们南传佛教、汉传佛教，包括禅宗、藏传佛教，以及这个各个宗教的一些人士呢，就是也对探讨着这个未来的这些佛法的一些建立方面的一些就这方面的研讨会吧。就是从中呢也可以看出来，就是这里我们有很多的这种思想，就是大家都是可以求同存异，而且这种方式来学习和修行，这当前来讲也是相当重要。
I think Norway is a country of openness and inclusiveness. Yesterday I had a meeting with a group of Buddhists from different traditions, from the Han tradition, from the Theravada tradition, from the Chan tradition, as well as from Tibetan tradition. So through that conference, or through that little meeting that we had, we discussed about the future of Buddhism in the West. Through this meeting, I really noticed how there are a lot that could be done. And my emphasis on that meeting was on study and practice. I think that's really the cornerstone of dissemination of Buddhism.
因为很多全世界的人认为就是这里是和平的中心，我相信这里呢应该各教派之间也好，各宗教徒或者说是没有任何信仰的我们所谓的自由主义的这些学者的话呢，大家都是一定会是有一个非常就互相学习、互相理解、互相包容的，就是这么一个气氛，就是这是应该的。如果在这里没有和谐的话呢，那其他地方很难以寻找。
I think Norway is the center of peace, or the country that should emphasize that, because people from different aspects, different areas, from different backgrounds, it doesn't matter if they're religious personnel or scholars, as long as Norway is promoting peace, I think inclusiveness as well as mutual understanding should be emphasized. Because what other country would do better than Norway?
我想虽然我们每个人的能力呢是有限的，但是在自己的有限的生命当中、有限的能力当中，一定要对内心的和平、对世界的和平，每一个人应该是做出自己的一些贡献。
In our limited lifetime, which all of our lifetime is quite limited, we should spend the time on meaningful things, such as developing, or spend the time to develop our inner peace, as well as contribute to the global peace.
我一说世界和平的时候，有些人可能认为是这个太大了，其实不大的。我们每一个人的家里的和平，自己的身体也是一个世界，自己的家也是一个世界。我在佛学院有一个小小的房子，这就是我的世界。所以我们每一个人呢都有自己的世界，对自己的世界应该是创造出一种非常爱、非常慈悲、非常良好的一种这个氛围。
When I talk about global peace or peace on earth, it sounds very vague. However, I don't think it's vague at all. I think we can interpret it in such a way that our home itself is a small world. our body is a world, our society is a world. So within all these different circles of world, we can try to develop a the mind of loving kindness and the compassionate mind to contribute to all these little circles of worlds. I myself live in this small little wooden hut in the monastery, and I feel like that's my little world.
如果我们每个人没有利他的心，即使科学技术再发达的话，也许我们这个世界是不一定是非常美好的。
If we don't have the mind of benefiting others, it doesn't matter how advanced our technological development is, I don't think this world would be a better place.
我们可能现在科技的正面的一部分能看得到的，但是很多的负面的话呢，就我们有些就看不到，这叫做是安定你的世界，或者说是安忘。
A lot of times we can see the positive aspect of technological development, and we tend to ignore the negative aspect of this. In some ways, the negative aspect of technology is like the underworld that we do not perceive. For example, darknet or the hidden internet.
通过社交媒体的这样的一种渲染，或者说是这样宣传的话呢，实际上我们现在得到的这个世界呢，并不是我们所要的，但是因为有些利益集团、经济也好，这些利益集团呢，他们为了达到自己的目的，就是很多的信息呢包装好了以后呢，再呈现在我们面前，所以我们不得不跟着他们走。
Nowadays, our perception of the world is so tinted by our social media, and our social media's promotion are mostly based on lots of the profits that could be contributed to large corporations. So all of our information are packaged or gift wrapped by those people who could gain from us, and we're kind of following the carrot, so to speak.
其实，这种媒体的渲染是非常厉害的。在二战期间的时候呢，当时媒体并不是那么发达，但是当时，就纳粹还有这个希特勒他们的一种这个思想的话呢，当时对他们不需要的这些人的这种就进行丑化，就是让他们自己所得到的这种爱国主义的话呢，就是进行美化。然后当时整个欧洲的话呢，疯狂的就是支持他们，就是到今天的时候呢，我们发现当时的媒体的渲染呢，实际上是很可怕的。
In terms of how tinted our media is, it probably could trace back all the way to World War II. That's when Nazi Germany was on the rise. Back at the time of Hitler, he was using media to create this delusion of a wonderful nation, and trying to suppress any information that is not beneficial to him. Back then, people do not know how to differentiate what the media is feeding to them, and they bought what the media told them. As we all know, it led to a horrific events in history. So when we look back to those history, we do and we should feel terrified of how media could mislead us.
你们在座的人应该清楚，其实我们现在这个社交媒体当中所发现的也是冰山一角。就像冰山的话，上面呢就是大概露出10%左右，然后在水里面就是90%。同样的，我们现在大家所发现的呢，可能只有一点点，但是我们看不到的安迪尼的，就是教育的话呢，就非常非常的庞大。
As many of you sitting here may know, nowadays the internet that we use is probably just the tip of an iceberg, because all of those information are quite open, so that we can do our research and we could see them. But a lot of information are hidden they're about 90%, and those hidden information are about takes up on 90% of our cyberspace. In that underground of cyberspace, many illegal or illicit trading happens over there.
其实现在暗网的有些现象的话，我想你们也非常清楚。就了解之后的话，那非常的可怕。就虽然就有些国家呢，就是稍微这个有点控制，但是呢，基本上已经成了全球性的教义。就包括现在这个全球的，比如说这个比特币的话呢，就是它是一种带有密码性的一种网络的这种货币吧，就是电子货币。它这个电子货币的整个运行的话呢，就是全球性的。好像今年上半年的时候是这个1比1000美元，就是现在的是就是已经说是已经这个1比1万美元，而且整个这个在世界范围当中，就是操作系统是非常非常的按照他们的规律来讲是非常的完善。
You're probably familiar with the term darknet or the hidden internet. Many countries are trying to have a certain control over it, but it's quite difficult. And because of that, it brought a global anxiety in some ways. In this darknet, a lot of illicit trading happens over there. And the tool they use to trade over there is Bitcoin, and in cryptocurrency that is digital and anonymous for people to trade in. On the first half of the year in 2017, the exchange rate between Bitcoin and US dollars is 1 to 1,000. By now, the recent exchange rate has risen all the way to 1 to 10,000 US dollars.
现在有些人认为，就是这个叫地下的一个，相当于是地狱吧，就是那种非常庞大的这种体系来形容，而且这里面就是现在交易的呢，基本上是很多国家比较控制的，比如说这个枪支啊、毒药啊，以及这个色情交易啊，就是等，就是许许多多的这些内容。那么这些就全是依靠一种秘密的这种运行。但是实际上是非常多的人呢，就是在进行就教育，并且呢，就是有些也获得了成功。因此，以前我们在社会上是就有一种什么黑帮啊，就黑社会啊，就是比较可怕的，在地面的一些运行。那现在的话呢，就我们看不到的暗地里的，就是有很多很多的这种群体，这也是我们科技时代给我们就是带来的一种非常难以描述的现象。
The cryptocurrency has a well-rounded or perfect mechanism that it could work really well by itself. It is a perfect system for people to trade in anonymously. Within this network, within this dark net, where we could call almost like underground of our world, where we do not perceive, lots of illicit trading such as firearms, illicit drugs, as well as pornographies. Those things are traded through Bitcoin. The operation of this whole network is quite secure, and people do get succeeded without getting caught. It is almost like the old-style gangsters gone internet. So people do not trade drugs and all those things in reality anymore, but they took advantage of high technology. So we can see that technology not only brings convenience, but also brings terror.
这样一来，我们现在很难以知道这个世界的本来面目。本来佛教当中讲生意当中一切共性的，世俗当中是如梦如幻的。但现在看来的话呢，就是这个网络媒体时代的话呢，现象跟实相呢，完全都是很难以分清。
It is even harder for us to perceive what is reality nowadays because of this phenomena. In Buddhism, we say that the nature is empty and we should perceive the reality as illusory. However, nowadays it seems that our real life is so entangled with virtual life that it's hard to differentiate and discern what is real and what is not real anymore.
而且在这样的这个时代当中呢，我们很多人的生活就没有一个特别确定性的一种安全感，因为在这个时代当中的变化性非常非常强，就跟任何一个时代都不相同的。因此呢，不管是你是商人也好，你是有一些领导也好，你是企业也好，你不管是什么样的身份的话呢，你可能提前的是应该做好很多的心理的准备，就是最坏的或者说是最不愿意看到的事情呢，你可能心里都要做准备。
In this time, people's lives are so full of uncertainty, so full of insecurity, because we're at a point in our world where changes happens too fast and happens all the time that we really cannot have a grasp onto our life anymore. Therefore, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do, businessmen or students or politicians or whomsoever you are, whatever you do, you should really mentally prepare for the worst.
所以我们对现在的媒体时代呢，也有正面的这个认可和评价，也有一些负面的了解和警惕。
So nowadays, towards our media, we should have, of course, we should acknowledge the convenience and the positive aspect it brought to us. As well, we should know and we should be cautious about the negative aspect it's going to bring into our lives.
不管是什么样呢，就是自己的内心呢，应该保持自己的一种正面的，也就是说，内心呢保持着一个非常淡定的，非常宁静的，就安住在这样的一个信心，也就是说是经常呢就是了解自己的心态，就是这样的这种状态是非常重要。
So I think in or under such circumstance, it is quite important for us to have a calm mind, to keep peace in our mind. It is important to maintain such a way through observation of the nature of our own mind.
就像实践的一些运动员呢，他通过长期的这种训练，然后需要用他的任何的这种身体的动作和行为的时候呢，他运用自如，就是非常方便。同样的道理，我们经常会禅修，我们经常会观自己的心，我们经常会观这个世界的这种各种情况的话呢，一旦在自己的生活当中发生一些变化的时候呢，我们又有应对的能力。
Just like how athletes, through practice, they are really familiar with how their poses or their actions should be. If we stretch our mind or practice our mind that way, we will get familiar with how our mind works. If we practice meditation and observe our mind and use the clarity to observe the world and be always prepared, then whenever and however changes that happens in the world, we're always prepared to change and we're not caught by surprise.
如果我们没有经常禅修，一旦遇到这些事情，发生这些事情的时候呢，那你措手不及。
But if we don't practice meditation, whenever unfortunate events happen, then you are caught by surprise. There's probably nothing that you can do on the spot.
因此，不管是你有信仰没有信仰，平时训练自己的心，这是对每个人来讲很重要的。像我们佛教的话呢，那一个人的修行好不好呢，就是看他的这个经常的修炼，这是对一个人的一个修行上面的标准。虽然我们可能很多人没有这样的标准，但是对自己对自己，就像我刚才提倡的，一天能不能关机1个小时，然后通过这种方式来观察自己的心和观察自己的一些真正的生活。
It doesn't matter if you have faith or not. It is really important for you to train your mind. Whenever whenever we try to describe if someone is a practitioner or not, we are really trying to assess if that person practices or not. So put practice as part of your life, or integrate practice into your life. As I just promoted, I think you should switch off your phone for an hour a day. So during that time, you can use that time to not be distracted and just watch your mind, to do that practice. Or simply use that time to have genuine connection with people that you have in your life.
我今天跟大家的禅修呢，第一件事情是冷敷一天关1个小时的这个书籍，就是这是第一个窍诀。
My very first pith instruction today that I've given you is switch off your phone for an hour a day.
不敢过多要求，如果过多的要求的话呢，你们也不一定能做得到。
I don't really want to force you to switch off your phone for too long because you may not be able to do it.
第二个要求呢，当你遇到任何事情的时候呢，不要特别的执着，就把它当作如梦如幻。
The second one is, whenever or whatever you encounter in your life, do not grasp onto it too much. You should view everything as an illusion, as a dream.
因为你越执着越痛苦，最后把事情就是会搞乱的。
The more you grasp, the more suffering you create for yourself, and eventually it will create chaos.
因此，在生活当中，经常有一个佛教里面特别好的一句话，也就是说，一切有为法，如梦亦如幻，如露亦如电，应作如是观，有这么一个教言，就是那么这个呢，就经常念，就是经常念的时候呢，当你遇到任何事情的时候呢，你就不会特别的痛苦，不会特别的在意。
In Buddhism, you're probably familiar with this stanza. It says that all the things that is conditioned phenomena, we should perceive it as a dream, as an illusion, as a water bubble, and as an apparition. So this is the view that you should adapt when you view the external phenomena. Therefore, I would encourage you to chant that stanza often, so that whatever arises in your life, you're not going to grasp onto it as firmly as you used to be, and it won't create as much pain and suffering to you.
第三个，就要求也好，希望的话呢，就我等会儿念这2个法的传承，一个是修行八颂，一个是修行七要。其实修行八颂只有8个偈颂，修行七要是只有小小的七个要求，所以这个要求不高，应该对你们来讲是要求不高的。就是所以这2部论点呢，就是能不能经常去关心真理的意思，经常去怎么说啊？就是重视它。
重视 ，OK。And the third one is that I'm going to give you an oral transmission on the 2 books that I mentioned earlier. One is the 8 verses on training the mind, and the other one is 7 points of mind training. Both of them are really short, very concise. The 7 points of mind training has only 7 points, and 8 verses of mind training has only 8 verses. So they're very short. Therefore, I would encourage you to please take the time to put lots of emphasis to study and practice them in your life. And if you do, it's going to be really beneficial.